Hey. So Squarespace recently released, finally, for Fluid Engine, the ability to duplicate blocks. And so I want to show you a little bit about that. So it gives you some really interesting options. So obviously with Fluid Engine, we have to build things more manually, and I'll show you that in a second. But I had to build, I had to add this image, I had to add the text block, I had to add the button and layer them all on top of each other. So I have a couple of options. I can duplicate the whole section and maybe move the image over and the text block and button over and do things like this that are similar but mirrored across the site. But I also have the option now to duplicate everything. So I'm just going to delete this. And I'm going to show you really quick, just from the basics, of how I have to start this. So if I were to do this again, first thing I did was add an image, and then I made it nice and big. I edited the section just a little bit so that its grid count was pressed together and its height was short. And I'm going to make this image a little bit bigger. And then I went ahead into I'm just going to make this pretty much exactly the same. I went into my image library, picked an image. I have loads, but let's go with this one for this time. And then I had to, the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to see how much work it can be and how much how much time this is actually gonna save you. Then I added a text block and I moved it kind of here, and I'm gonna copy and paste this section here, like just the words so far. And I'm gonna do that. And I made it nice and wide, and I went in and added a background. And if I have this, where I have the background is burgundy, I would probably go ahead and take the time to make my text white. And then I elongated this background enough to add and I'm probably gonna, you can see how much I have to scroll here. I'm gonna shorten this up a little. Maybe just a little more so we can see everything nicely, and then drag this so it's pretty much centered. I'll do that again, and I might make this a little wider. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that button on top. So add a block, add a button. It's burgundy on burgundy, so I would probably need to edit some other things. So maybe make it another color. So add button styles, and I could edit the button colors across my site, but I would need to have a think about, obviously, this button and how that works, because this is a burgundy background. But in any case, for now, let's go ahead and make it a nice big secondary button and hit this pencil because I want it to be filled. I don't really like the fitted buttons. They weird me out. And I'm just going to make sure that's nice in a nice place. And the other one, I have it centered on the block pretty much, or as close to it as I can get. And that's something else to be mindful about with Fluid Engine. You can't always get things perfectly centered. I would need to maybe change that to get it all perfectly centered. Okay, there we go. So that's how much long it took me to create this block. And Squarespace obviously has some section templates that would save you some time on some of these things. But if you're designing from scratch and you're not using their templates, there is a lot to be considered there. So now you can go ahead and select multiple things. So you can see there's a duplicate button. So if I go ahead and click on all the things that we've got going on, I can go ahead and duplicate them. And that has duplicated literally everything I just created. So I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to be able to drag all of that content down. And there it is. Once, twice. Look at that. And that is brand new. So this duplicate section block is a brand new feature, and you can duplicate just the block, or maybe the block and the button. As long as you hit Shift, you can duplicate whichever parts that your heart desires. I hope you found that helpful.